Kinnman. I'm the CEO of NeuroVive since 2.5 years back. I'll tell you about another exciting and important company and why it's exciting at this moment. I have a background as a physician and a scientist from the Karolinska. I've been in the industry now for some 20 years. First, in summary about NeuroVive, this is a Swedish pharma company. We're focused on mitochondrial medicine. Mitochondria are important. Just a couple of facts to support that. The mitochondria are present in all the bodily cells, with the only exception red blood cells. They are about 10% of your body weight as well. We have 2 projects in clinical development. One is for traumatic brain injury. That one is in phase 2. We have another one in clinical development for genetic mitochondrial disease, and then we have several in the preclinical stage. We have been listed on the Nasdaq Stockholm Stock Exchange since 2008. We have currently a market cap of about 380 million Swedish. Shortly about mitochondria. Mitochondria have 2 important functions. One is to generate the energy that the body needs from food and oxygen and transform that into ATP, which is the fuel of the cells. The other one is to protect cells and to control cell death. So obviously in situations such as in traumatic brain injury, where there is stress to the mitochondria, and if they stop functioning, or in the case of genetic mitochondrial disease, there is a mutation which hampers the function of mitochondria are in problem, cells will die and organs will stop functioning. What NeuroVive is focused on is to develop drugs that protect and enhance the function of mitochondria. So when it comes to genetic mitochondrial diseases, these are rare diseases. They are put together as a group, 12.5 out of 100,000, which means that these are orphan indications. These are rare and heritable mutations in the mitochondrial respiratory chain. They have different names, acronyms, diseases that you probably haven't heard about. Leigh disease, Melas disease are the most common. The most severe ones are diseases such as Pearson's disease, which is exclusively children, as they have a life expectancy of 2 to 4 years of age, and they get severely sick before they actually die. What's characteristic about these different types of syndromes is that organs deteriorate over time. You lose function of the various organs, and there is only one treatment available. It's a drug approved in Europe only, not approved in the US for one of these diseases. That's Leber's hereditary opticus neuritis. So obviously there is clear medical need in this area. This is just to depict the various organs that can be affected, especially those that consume a lot of energy are at risk, such as the brain. Some of these syndromes go with stroke-like symptoms, Parkinson-like symptoms, and mental retardation. What's very common is skeletal muscle affection with loss of function of the muscles, the heart as well. Quite common is symptoms from the gut, and if the pancreas is affected, these patients also have diabetes. We have a compound KL1333, which is now in clinical phase 1. It just went through a first successful phase 1 study where we showed very positive and favorable pharmacokinetics, and also that it was safe and tolerable in this population. What KL1333 does is that it increases the levels of NAD+, a coenzyme, and by doing that increases energy production, and very interestingly also creates new mitochondria, which will have an effect in the long term for this patient category. What we're looking forward to now is the initiation of the next clinical trial, which will be done in UK would start this fall. We have the possibility to reach the market by 2022, and obviously this is a significant market opportunity. We have a second program also in the field of genetic mitochondrial diseases. This is an alternative energy source for these patients. Our technology is succinate prodrug, and succinate prodrug carries succinate, which is an endogenous product, into the cell and thereby also to the mitochondria, and serves as an alternative energy source, bypassing the complex one where most of the genetic mutation sits. We're now waiting for experimental study results throughout the second half of this year and the beginning of next, which will take us to the possibility of initiating a clinical trial by the end of 2019 or during 2020. We have the possibility to reach the market by 2025. Again, a potentially very successful marketed product with peak year sales of about $1 billion US. So shortly about Neurostat, our traumatic brain injury product. There is no protectant for the brain cells after acute trauma. What is well known is obviously the acute loss of neurons, brain cells at the accident, typically a traffic accident, a bicycle accident, or a sports injury. But what's not as well known is that a lot of the sequelae comes from the deterioration of the brain, which continues for the days up to weeks after the acute injury. And this is what needs to be prevented to avoid the serious neurological deficits and high burden of disease that can come out of a traumatic brain injury. This is a big problem for society. There's some 50 million patients around the world every year, close to $400 billion US in indirect and direct costs. And the average cost per patient is some 300 million US. What our drug Neurostat does is to protect the brain after a traumatic brain injury. So Neurostat given to the brain will stabilize the mitochondria, and by doing so it will protect the cells. This has been shown in numerous experimental studies, not only by us but others as well. And recently we did a very interesting study in large mammals, pigs, where you can see the MRI scans as a result. On the left side, you have placebo, and the top panel, it's the result, the worst case result, and clearly without being a radiologist, you can see the difference between that and Neurostat, the active side. So a brain trauma under anesthesia is given, the drug is given for 5 days, and this image is taken after 5 days. If you look at the average cases and the below panels in placebo and Neurostat, there's a clear difference. When this was done or calculated from a blinded observer, there was a 35% difference in the volume loss. This gave us comfort and made us decide to move into an efficacy trial, which we're now planning to initiate during 2019. NASH is a different area for us. Obviously, everyone is aware of the very significant opportunities in NASH. It's 3 to 5% of the US population, somewhat less in Europe, somewhat higher in the Arabic and Asian countries. There's a strong association with diabetes and obesity. In addition to the fat buildup and the inflammation that follows, the really challenging part is when fibrosis is started, and that's associated with a poor outcome in these patients, as it leads to liver cirrhosis and liver cancer. It's a big market opportunity and there's no drugs. We have one drug that acts partly through stabilizing the mitochondria and also directly by an antifibrotic effect in lowering the collagen production. We have extensive preclinical documentation, both in terms of antifibrotic effect. It's an orally available liver target and once daily drug, and we've scaled up production up to kilogram doses. We're now actively interacting with interested pharma and large biotech companies with the hope to out-license this by the end of this year or beginning of next year. This is a summary of our current portfolio. I've talked about the brain injury program. We have, in addition to the two genetic mitochondrial disease programs, two additional ones. NV025, which we hope to have a lead compound by the end of this year. And interestingly also a compound or a group of molecules that BridgeBio in the US have licensed from us and started a new company to develop a local treatment for Leber's hereditary opticus neuritis. In addition also to NV556, which is the program which is antifibrotic in NASH, we have a NASH program which also addresses the metabolic side of this disease. And in addition to that, we have a liver cancer project. So these are the important milestones and timelines. So this makes the second half of this year and next year a very exciting period for us. We have KL1333, the genetic mitochondrial disease program, which will initiate the trial, and we will have the results in the beginning of next year. We have 354, where we are expecting experimental results this year. We have lead compounds or lead candidates that we expect to have during the second half of this year, both from 025, 022, and 024. And we have the TBI program start during next year as well. And then obviously a great impact will be out-licensing of our NASH program. This is our financial position. In short, we just recently, or before the summer, did a rights issue, which was successful. We have now cash to the beginning of next year. Within that rights issue, there is a possibility for additional 37 million Swedish through a warrants program in November. In summary, we have a new strong portfolio and a team that delivers value. I think what's exciting in the company is that we do have life-changing medicines in this new development portfolio. We have a high-performing team that will deliver on these opportunities, and there are clearly near-term value triggers and possibilities for growth. Thank you very much.